Musu, a 27-year-old human rights expert, law lecturer, women's rights advocate, and a survivor of female genital mutilation.
When I was about 5 or 6 years old, my parents told me that I would be visiting my grandmother. This, I would say, was the most exciting moment of my life. The thought of seeing my grandmother for the very first time was quite fulfilling. But this journey, I did not know, was the beginning of my struggles as an adult. When we went to the village, I realized that my grandmother was gone long before that even my father doesn't know how much. But I was still excited given the fact that there were other children that were also going to be cut. The idea of having biscuits wrapped around our necks and also mints was very exciting. We were cut, we had traditional attires, but they made us believe that this would make us clean, that this was a fulfillment of our tradition.
FGM is a very topical subject matter all over the world, particularly in the Gambia, a very controversial one. And because it is shrouded in some form of misconception with the fact that people felt that it was a religious obligation that every woman must be circumcised.
Female genital mutilation or female circumcision, as it used to be called, is a deep-rooted tradition in Africa. It is practiced in over 28 African countries, and millions of girls have been subjected to the practice.
So what I normally say is that the circumciser always forget that this girl, there will come a time when consummation of marriage will take place, when this girl will be entitled to have a child.
The effects of FGM manifested when I was in labor. It took me 3 days to give birth to my baby girl. The pain was excruciating. And then I knew that my child, my daughters, will never undergo FGM.
Women who have been subjected to FGM might have the tendency of suffering from vesicovaginal fistulas and then some other forms of fistula, including very prolonged deliveries, even though it is a normal thing for forced deliveries, but there are certain experiences that people have as a result of the effects of female genital mutilation.
Ndelimen nyata duda ko no fonga ko ngoje na bala fa dundanna dal aketanna do ko di kaita mo la kabul.
On November 24th, 2015, the Gambia officially declared the practice of female genital mutilation and cutting a criminal offense.
The coming of the ban in 2015 is a welcoming news and welcoming idea to us as activists.
The most important thing regarding FGM in the Gambia was the fact that the silence has been broken.
The sensitization took place way at that critical moment when people did not know about it first and people were very resistant towards it. So it took a lot of hard work, a lot of lobbying, including ministries of health, ministries of culture, and the general public, the opinion leaders, traditional chiefs, to get their involvement.
We have already had almost 4 abandonments before the 5th abandonment. That was when the law was enacted.
Passing a legislation against FGM shows that government has come into effect in implementing the International Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, the International Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the UN General Resolution against FGM, all of which were adopted in 1979, 1989, and 2012, respectively. It shows that government is committed to protecting the rights of women and girls in the Gambia.
Bill of 2015, now being proposed, of course, for the prohibition, but not only prohibition, but criminalization as well of FGMC throughout the Gambia, seeks to give effect to, as well as enforce, the constitutional rights of women and children, not to be subjected to practices that are harmful to their health and well-being, and also to give effect to our international and regional commitments and periodic reportings that we are required to do, and other obligations.
That was a eureka moment for us when there was a pronouncement that FGMC should be banned.
This is the law that was enacted on the 28th of December 2015.
We are happy. We congratulate the government of the Gambia for enacting a legislation that criminalizes female genital mutilation. That is one of the indicators of the joint program, and that has been achieved in the Gambia. What we then need is to continually work on the more robust legal framework to address this issue in the Gambia and to make sure that this law is implemented.
According to statistics, the overall prevalence of FGM among women aged 15 to 49 in the Gambia is 75%, mostly among women in the rural areas.
So once you do this act, you will be sent to jail, or you'll be fined like $50,000, or if you're an accomplice to it. So we have been doing a lot. It has opened doors for people to talk about it more freely now.
The Women's Amendment Act officially made female genital mutilation an offense punishable by a prison term or imprisonment of a life sentence when death occurs. This is a victory for the girl child campaigners and advocates who have over the years, with support from global organizations such as UNFPA and UNICEF, advocated the abolishment of harmful practices detrimental to health and society.
The joint UNFPA-UNICEF program on FGM, Accelerating Change, is the largest global joint program on FGM.
Since 2009, the Gambia has benefited from the joint program to end female genital mutilation. It's a global program operational in 17 countries and funded by our partners. In that time, with the benefit, I must say that even though Gambia was over 90% prevalence in female genital mutilation, now we are encouraged that in that time, the prevalence has dropped to 75%, and it's still dropping because of the intense advocacy, work on legal reforms, and community engagement that has been practiced over that period.
We have seen an emergence of a plethora of team of young activists and institutions coming out to engage, taking leadership in changing and claiming their own rights. That itself guarantees the future for the women and the young people of the Gambia.
We have trained community leaders, women, young people. But one critical sector of the young people that we have targeted and been so innovative for us is the madrasa, the Arabic school students and their teachers. These are future religious scholars, future imams, future parents, fathers and mothers. But most of the time, people don't target them because they are so controversial as far as the FGM debate is concerned. But the Girls Agenda took it upon ourselves and targeted the madrasa since 2015 with funding, of course, from the UNFPA. And we've been able to train over 800 madrasas with messages and information on female genital mutilation and its consequences.
We embarked upon sensitization of the communities, women at reproductive age, elderly women at community level, to talk to them about the health effects of female genital mutilation.
More community engagement and more community dialogue. But generally speaking, we can see there has been change, there are more dialogue, young women and young men are involved in the campaign against FGM. Even at the national level, at the government level, stakeholders are involved.
They made us aware of the harms caused by this practice on women and girls. We are also thankful to UNFPA for their support.
The most recent demographic health survey of FGM prevalence amongst women aged 15 to 49 in 2013 still reveals grim statistics.
Yes, since the act was pronounced, because it is positive, our collaborators and our colleagues in the international community have seen that the Gambia is taking a move that is positive. Therefore, they have come to join us in our portions of health for the women folk and female.
77.3% and 71.6% of the people believe that FGM is an Islamic obligation, thus their reason for practicing it.
People have attached different religious connotations to it and religious injunctions, but through research it was discovered that FGM was not indeed a religious injunction.
The practice in Islam will never be a religious injunction. It's a cultural practice. And that is why in Islamic sources you will never see FGM, the equivalent of FGM in Arabic. The equivalent of FGM in Arabic is تسويه الأعضاء التناسلية للنساء. That's female genital mutilation. That's a direct translation of FGM in Arabic. This terminology, تشويه الأعضاء التناسلية للنساء, doesn't exist in any of the Islamic sources.
Bisuñ fenn ci téré ci yonent bi binda wala ci l'islam wax ne lolu farata la wa luñ wara def la dédét. Lolu mo gisuñ ko fenn ci l'islam bo xamné ki nga xamné moko jité mu yonent am sal fu ko diklé wala ñu mel nonu.
I am seriously against that statement that says FGM has a link or is an Islamic obligation. Islam is a very straightforward religion, and Islam says, I do not put anything on you that will harm you unless your own hands put it on yourselves.
The Women's Bureau, under the Office of the Vice President and Ministry of Women's Affairs, coordinates legislative policy and program initiatives to address through a successful integration of FGM into the curricula of health professional schools.
It is for these reasons that the support from UNFPA, the Ministry of Health, integrated FGM into the curricula of all health professional schools, including School of Medicine. Over 1,000 nurses, including nurse midwives, have been trained on FGM, its complication, and how to manage the complications. The Ministry of Health will continue to educate the general public about the complications of FGM, and with the presence of anti-FGM laws, the government is committed to improving the health of women and girls in the Gambia.
This has been the key in ensuring that the future generation of girls and women remain uncut and protected from harm. In some regions where FGM is a part of a rite of passage into adulthood, initiation without cutting was promoted, ensuring that the positive aspects of the culture were retained while totally abandoning the cutting part, which has negative consequences for women and girls, in addition to being a violation of their fundamental human rights. Since 2009, a total of 1,015 communities have publicly declared their abandonment of FGM, and 158 circumcises have abandoned the practice, contributing to the reduction of the national FGM prevalence from 92.2% to 75%. With a key mandate of the UN being to protect the women and girls, UNFPA supported the development of an anti-FGM Act, which was used in the Women's Act Amendment Act criminalizing FGM.
Whilst the act is being pronounced, there needs to be continuation of advocacy about the awareness that there is an act that is protecting women, but also it was the right of the remaining communities that were not reached to be reached, and we had discussed with UN Women, with UNFPA, and Save the Children, including other institutions who were interested in the debate on FGM, to engage all organizations that are credible to be able to continue the advocacy.
FGM is not the end, because we still have a long way to go, so that everybody would accept and know that really this is a law, because sometimes people will not accept even if it's a law unless you see your neighbor being sent to jail, and we don't want to be sending people to jail or asking people to pay heavy fines.
We have gone very far in achieving what we have achieved, but still there are gaps. that need to be filled.
We really have a long way to go. We just have to coordinate our efforts, work under a common agenda, speak with one voice, go to communities and educate the people that FGM has serious consequences and it is a human rights violation.
FGM is a human rights violation. It affects children, girls most especially, as well as women. It creates complications during labor and has results or effects on our sexual reproductive health. FGM prevents girls from pursuing their dreams. It is a gender inequality because it is the ill treatment of one particular gender, whereby most of the time it results to our disempowerment.
With the collaborations between the government, non-state actors and various arms of the UN, harmful cultural practices that impact negatively on women and girls in the Gambia will soon be eradicated.
The psychosocial and psychological issue that result from FGM is well documented. No child, no woman should be put towards these harmful traditional practices. We believe that continually with the government of the Gambia, UNFPA and its partners, including UNICEF and other agencies, are here to continue to support the government of the Gambia with the belief and assurance that within a generation, we will end FGM in the Gambia.
When there is a will on the part of the state, especially in its fulfillment of its international obligations, then any harmful traditional practice or any rights of women will be promoted and the harmful traditional practices will come to an end.